Hi guys, I'm here with another story for you guys from the good old days. These glasses are tinted and they're hard to see out of when it gets dark. And I've got all 5 lights on in here. And look how dark the videos still look. I think it's seriously because I took my rainbow poster down that was behind my head. But thought you guys would get tired of seeing that rainbow poster constantly in every video, so I wanted to change it up for you guys, so I need to find me another poster. My Adventure Time one's over there hanging on the wall behind the couch that Jimmy got me. I did have it, my nephew, hanging here, and then I changed to the rainbow one. I'm glad to find me another pretty poster or something to put back here, so you guys can, hopefully it'll brighten up the videos. You guys can have something else to look at. Alright. This story, I'm reading it for the first time with you guys, so we're reading it together. And it is by Sidney Conkwright, and it's entitled My Utah Adventures. An angry bull topped the list of experiences. And as you can see, there's a bull. I know how bulls are because I lived on a farm. My granny and papa had a farm, and we had all kinds of animals. And bulls were none the short. They can be mean. Let's see what happens. Back in 1930, when I was a 7-year-old boy, my family lived in a small 2-bedroom home in South Los Angeles. That spring, my parents announced plans for a trip to their home state of Utah to visit friends on their farms and ranches. I was thrilled, clear down to my toes. Questions tumbled ceasingly from my mouth. Do people live in Utah? How far is it? Will we see horses and cows? Dad had just bought a new Chevrolet sedan, painted a revolutionary green color. In those days, nearly all cars were painted black. Dad was eager to try his new pride and joy on the road. We departed that day, and when the departure day arrived, we were hustled out to the new family buggy at dawn. Dad was visibly itching to get behind the wheel. He tied our suitcases to the spare tire mounted on the back of the car. Car trunks had not been invented yet. Away at last. The narrow 2-lane roads from L.A. to the Nevada border were well paved, but contrast Nevada had miles of unpaved, ripple-surfaced, teeth-chattering roads that Dad named washboard flats. Riding through those flat, featureless deserts were boring for us kids, prompting constant questions. When will we get there? Is it much further? At about noon, we were near Los Angeles when Dad pulled off the road and we got out. There was nothing to see for miles around except endless desert and empty highway. We were surrounded by uninterrupted silence. Excuse me. Mother pronounced a neat little box and a thermos bottle which she laid on the car running board. She handed each of us a tuna fish sandwich and a deviled egg, and poured 4 tiny tin cups of lemonade. We had sweet fresh peaches for dessert. We ate like starved hobos. As we drove north into Utah, the landscape became lush and green. Fields were filled with the tall alfalfa and fruit concords. Horses and cattle were grazing. My sister and I amused ourselves by counting how many white horses and cows we saw. In early evening, we turned off the main road on a tree-lined gravel lane. We stopped in front of the largest, most imposing house I had ever seen. It was a stately-looking 2-story structure with an immense wraparound covered porch. This was a farmhouse of Uncle Scott McClellan and his wife Cynthia, who had invited us to stay there for a couple of days. This jovial couple greeted us as we climbed the stairs to their front porch. They were large country folks. Aunt Cynthia, an exuberant woman, towered over my tiny 5-foot-tall mother. Mom seemed to disappear in her enveloping arms. We were swept into the house, accompanied by happy chatter. Soon we were seated at an elegant dinner table for an unforgettable feast of roast chicken, dumplings, sweet garden peas, carrots, and hot yeast rolls straight from the oven. The next day, after breakfast, I hurried outside to help Uncle Scott with the farm chores. He had finished milking the cows and was pouring buckets of milk into the cream separator, which then cranked, separated the cream into one container and the milk into another. He carried the milk out to the calf corral and poured it into the trough. I was fascinated by watching them all squirming in for their share. Entranced by this strange ritual, I decided to repeat it myself. I returned to the milk room and found a container of cream. I poured it into the separator and cranked it through. Picking up the container of cream, I carried it to the yard. The piglets were corralled next to the calves and squealed at the sight of me. I reasoned that the calves had already had theirs, so I gave the batch to the pigs. About an hour later, a scowling, angry Aunt Cynthia faced me with fists on her hips. She spat loud, frightening words. "Boy, you fed good, expensive cream to those pigs. But worse, if you'd fed it to the calves, you'd have killed every one of 'em. Lord o' mercy, that's what drives people crazy in this country." I was trembling when she stalked away, and I walked under a cloud for the rest of our stay. We left the McClellan farm that following morning, heading north toward the ranch of Tom and Jean Powers. Tom was an old school chum of my dad's. It was a warm blue sky day when we arrived at the bride's sprawling ranch house. It stood well apart from the huge white barn, milking sheds, and corrals. After breakfast, my 5-year-old sister and I were in the yard playing with a frisky puppy when we heard an angry bellow from the corral. Alarmed shouts announced the escape of a very large bull, which came running in our direction. Jean and Mother ran out of the house. Mother shrieked to us and dragged us onto the screen porch. Meanwhile, Jean shooted toward the corral, anxiously looking for Tommy. At that moment, Tommy emerged from the barn with a pitchfork at the ready. Jean was rooted to the spot, terrified. She screeched, "Tommy, get on a horse! Get on a horse!" The hired hands had all disappeared. Tommy was alone and on foot, facing a ton of young bull, which now was pawing the ground, sending clouds of dust and dirt into the air. They do that when they get really mad. Tommy began taking slow, purposeful steps toward the bull. With each step he growled and jabbed the pitchfork at the bull. The bull stopped. Then it raised its head from its low, aggressive stance. Tommy continued his steady advance, jabbing his pitchfork and growling. Minutes later, the subdued bull turned and docilely walked into the pen, with Tommy close behind. Wow, I thought. Tommy is braver than the Lone Ranger and Tom Mix combined. After the heart-stopping adventure of Tommy the Bull, everything thereafter was boring. Baby chicks in the chicken coop and newborn kittens in the barn simply did not compare. Departure day was one of mixed emotions, smiles and tears, handshakes, hugs and kisses. Finally, Dad headed to the Chevy south toward home. Although the route and the distance were the same, this return trip seemed take forever. It was unending, sad, and dull. I kept thinking, I'll never have such marvelous experiences like those again, feeding cream to the pigs, baby kittens, Tommy, and the bull. But I was wrong. I told these tales dozens of times that fall to my playmates and school chums, repeating and reliving everything of my Utah adventures. Oh my gosh, that's kind of mean, the way his aunt came out there screaming at him because he made a mistake. I'm like, oh my god. I know how that is. I've been in a lot of trouble when I was a kid. But how mean. They don't never see him and then you do that. My little boy probably felt horrible. But he's probably a little rotten little boy too. He probably didn't really think much about it. Rotten little boy probably always getting in trouble. You know how little boys are. You know how little girls are too. Because I wasn't no innocent little angel growing up. I could act just like one of the boys growing up. I could run faster than any boy. Oh. Wasn't afraid to go barefoot, scrape my knee. I loved to go fishing, camping. Loved to play baseball. Oh yeah. Those were the days. And I thought that was a cool story. Because bulls, some of them will get mean when they start doing that with their feet. Pulling their feet into the dirt. You know they're getting ready to charge. So yeah, luckily that bull didn't charge after him. So I thought that was a good story. I thought you guys would enjoy it. So we got to enjoy it together. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your night. Bye guys. Thanks for listening.